Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica, Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 102 of Adeptus Podcastus. It's going to be weird saying 100 and something for every single episode for the next 4 years, but you know, needs must. Joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Hello everyone.
And our guest this time, so on episode 101, we invited a guest who was supposed to be on 100 but couldn't make it at the last minute. So we decided to return the same favour again for the other person who had to bail at the last moment. Ladies, gentlemen, Xenos of all ages, I give you a very old friend of the show, NornQueenAlexis.
Yo.
Yes, welcome back. And first off, we have a couple of PSAs come apologies, mainly regarding audio. As I explained in my channel update video last week, I've just moved house, and so I've got a very echoey setup at the moment. So my audio is already a pile of hot garbage. And due to internet connections on various ends, we're having to do some various sort of sideways measures to record this episode. So there will probably be janky audio quality in places and occasional cutouts. There's not much we can do about it. We've tried all the workarounds we know, and we are where we are. So
it's being held together with string and glue.
Pretty much.
It's essentially the Imperium of Man pre-Gilliman.
Hey.
Pretty much the Imperium of Man post-Gilliman as well, but here we are. So yes, that probably seems like the best place to start, and that is, of course, the launch of Warhammer 40,000 9th edition and Indomitus. The rulebook has been out for about a week now as of the time of recording, and most people have been chunking their way through it, as well as working on all of their lovely, shiny Indomitus models. As for me personally, I've read the lore section of the rulebook. I haven't actually read the rules yet, because I've got no way to play the game probably for the next several months, so I kind of haven't bothered. But the rulebook is out, and there's some, I want to say interesting stuff in there, but it really feels like they just retread a lot of ground. They haven't really dropped anything major in it.
Hey, at least they took out that lore section about Armageddon being a demon world. You know, that kind of massively important planet that got summed up in one sentence in the 8th edition core rulebook.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, so there are several Warzone double-page spreads in the rulebook. There's one for Vigilus, there's one for the 5th Sphere expansion, and there's one for Armageddon. And it makes reference to the Red Angel's Gate, which was sort of a relic left behind from the first invasion, which is how Angron was going to come back. But they don't really drop all that much, though it does make a very major mistake in one of the sections talking about the Space Marines. Well, I say mistake, an understandable Imperial-centric answer that is also wrong. So when it talks about the Horus heresy and the fall of the Primarchs, it states outright that Horus was the first Primarch to fall.
Yeah, because Fulgrim has already killed his brother by then.
I raise you Lorgar.
Yeah, but nobody cares about him.
I mean, technically Horus falls before Fulgrim, because Horus turns Fulgrim, am I right? Horus turns Fulgrim.
He convinces Fulgrim to join him in his cause, yes.
Yeah, it's debatable whether Horus has gone full chaos by that point, and Fulgrim is the first to go out and out evil, with the exception of Lorgar. But yeah, it was just an interesting continuity error.
Speaking of continuity errors, wasn't there also a thing when talking about a Tau saying only now have the Tau started experiencing Tau Gene Stealer hybrids because of them blindly walking into a war zone between the Imperium and a Gene Stealer cult, even though we already had that situation with the High Fleet Gorg and Gene Stealer and the Earthcast going, I know, let's have them infect a Tau and see what happens.
Yeah, so we have the Cassimian situation. There's Cassimian, that situation, and there's also Deathwatch Shadowbreaker, where they are doing explicitly that. It does suggest that they stumbled onto Gene Stealer hybrids during the 5th Sphere, though that may be the first time that Shadow Sun has encountered them because she was in stasis. I don't know if that's what they're implying, but certainly there are a couple of little things like that they're not wrong per se, but I think it's interesting that the viewpoint that this book is told through, because a few people online kicked up a bit of a storm about the change to the intro text, how it's been changed, reworded, simplified in some ways, and some people were not very happy about that.
But it's legit the 3rd edition word for word.
Yeah, I can't say I knew that because I wasn't around in 3rd ed. I was 2.
Well, like the second, when I first got my Codex, when I first got the rule book, because I got a pre-release copy of it, I looked at the core rule book, I opened it up, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not the right emperor. Hang on, I know this picture. And I pulled out my 3rd edition rule book, flipped it open, and I'm like, hey, look, they use the same picture of the emperor's skin.
Yeah, there's a couple of things like that, and I know some people were not particularly pleased that it's a bit less humanity-centric, but I think that's a very interesting change in how the book is written, because...
It's almost like the Imperium isn't just about humans anymore. It's almost like they're incorporating a certain type of Xenos into it.
The Jacaro, dun dun dun.
Not what I was going for, but it's certainly like there's a bits around the outside of a lot of pages that have very classic 40k quotes, all of them, of course, being Imperial, such as "Serve the Emperor today, tomorrow you may be dead," and the actual quote that everyone was mad about the laughter of thirsting gods is in the rulebook. It's just like on the side column on like page 100 and something, for no good reason, but it is still there. But it is interesting that they've changed how they present all the factions. Like, Chaos is evil, but Chaos is also it's understandable why people go, and the fact that people do go is kind of just accepted. The Eldari's fall is barely mentioned at all, and it's sort of told from a very Imperial perspective, but it still gives the Eldari room to breathe, and the Imperium isn't just a Gilliman love fest. It's still talking about how the Imperium is crumbling under its own weight, that the Administratum has thousands of adepts dying every day just to keep going, and that the Imperium isn't actually going anywhere. It's a lumbering wreck continuing on under its own momentum and nothing else. So it's sort of trying to shy away from making it too much about humans best, Space Marines even better, all hail the Space Marines, all hail the Imperium. It's just a different change of tone. And I think that if you're trying to sell the universe rather than sell the Imperium, it's the right move.
Yeah, but just in case, let's reprint like 40 extra Space Marines, participation medals and everything.
Though, to be fair, each of the 3 mega factions, Imperium, Xenos, and Chaos, get a bestiary all to themselves. And they're actually very similar in thickness. So the Chaos one and the Xenos one are a bit slimmer than the Imperial one, but not by a massive amount. It's actually quite refreshing. And to be fair, a good chunk of that is because they spend like 4 pages showing off images of different Primaris Space Marines, and not a single firstborn is shown in the single model section.
Hang on, in the model section, aren't they actually showing like Terminators though in some pictures? Which are technically firstborn.
There might have been some Deathwing in there, I guess, and Sanguinary Guard. Yeah, you might be right. But like, I don't remember seeing a tactical Marine.
They weren't common. I'll give you that. They weren't a common sight. They were very hard to come by. But I do recall seeing at least 1 or 2 Terminators in there. Might have been in the Deathwatch section.
Yeah, Deathwatch would have done. Grey Knights, of course.
Oh yeah, the Grey Knights just go without question, though, don't they?
Man, if Grey Knights got added into the main Codex for Space Marines, they would have access to everything.
Well, that segues on quite nicely into the Indomitus launch party stream that happened on launch day, where they revealed a bunch of things, including a new Space Marines and Necrons Codex, which are coming out in October. And if you're a Space Marine player, I both feel sorry for you and have absolutely no pity for you whatsoever.
Where's that?
Because the Space Marines have now had 2 codexes in 2 years. They had a codex around this time last year with the 2.0 update. They were the first 2.0 codex. When they rolled in Shadowsphere, they added in...
No, they weren't. No, they weren't. Chaos got the updated codex first.
Sorry, yes, you're right. Sorry, yes, you are correct. But they got their 2.0 codex around July, August last year. And now they're getting a new codex with all the new stuff for 9th edition in October of this year. So their codex only lasted them a year. So in one sense, I feel very sorry for them because they have to spend a lot more money to keep their books up to date. At the same time, they get the same amount of units as about 4 different Xenos armies put together. So I kind of don't.
In all fairness, as somebody who collects all of the codexes and literally has all of them from 8th edition, 7th edition, 6th, and 5th, I can tell you this. If you're going to complain about the codex prices, that's like the cheapest thing you're buying. It's literally nothing. Just pay $5, get the app.
Yeah, it's not about the price. I think it's just about the frequency of updates in terms of like, we're getting new codex again. We just got used to using the old one.
Man, we're getting brand new models again that are broken and untested.
I know.
Oh, shucks. I guess we just have to be the best.
I know.
Sorry, I'm just messing.
But you make a valid point that I remember reading a couple of threads about how absolutely nuts Outriders, Blade Guard veterans apparently are. Outriders, apparently Blade Guard veterans.
7 attacks apiece? Are you kidding me? Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, I heard that Epilogue were running the numbers, and point for point, apparently Blade Guard can solo Custodes or something like that, point for point. I haven't run the numbers myself, and obviously equipment list and what Indomitus says versus what the Codex says may not be the same thing. That has to be taken into consideration.
I can solve that one right now. The Blade Guard have a very unique storm shield that's strictly unique to them and that captain. It is not the stat for the storm shield.
It is. It's +1 save.
Rules are now going to be on the data sheet, and that's what you're going to have to use, which I personally really like.
The question, though, becomes, are they going to keep the same data sheet from Indomitus to the Codex? Because Indomitus gets separate points to everything else in the Munitorum Field Manual, so maybe those are tied over points for Indomitus until the Marine Codex comes out. Question.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, so there's a few bits up in the air about particularly the Space Marine Codex and the Necron Codex, to be fair. But one thing that I did notice about the Space Marines Codex is that unlike every edition since maybe every edition since ever, the non-codex chapters are getting their chapter tactics in the main codex. Now, to be clear, they are not putting Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Dark Angels in full into the Space Marines Codex. What they are doing is putting their chapter tactics in there so that those factions can play with the new rules right out of the gate, and then I don't know what they do with their old units, how they fit. But it's just an interesting thing they've done to try and keep Space Marines cohesive without having to wait for 5 different books and roll them all into one.
The only ones that aren't going to be in the main codex, from what I can tell, are Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Dark Angels, and Grey Knights.
Deathwatch?
The Deathwatch is rolled in.
I saw their chapter tactics, but I didn't know if they were fully rolled in.
Yeah, they're rolled in, which is amazing because now we have freaking, all right, I am excited about this. Special issue ammunition on Centurions is the most amazing thing ever. I started working at a game store here because I can't help but work at game stores. We sold out of Space Wolves literally on launch day because of how busted they're going to be.
Yeah, Custodes is sold out.
Yep, Custodes is sold out. 12 command points? Are you kidding? I can actually do stuff beyond turn 1? Hell yeah.
Indeed.
I'm going to go into my assault phase, and I'm going to stop you right there, Chief. I'm going to break up all of this squad into a whole bunch of different characters, and I'm going to assault you with every single one of them on your turn.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see how the 9th edition match shakes out. Obviously, until we see the new Space Marines Codex, the new Necrons Codex, and all the new Necrons units in full, we have no way of knowing quite how powerful those two armies are going to be, though I have a funny feeling that at the very least Marines are going to sit at the top of the meta looking pretty for the next 6 to 10 months. But we will see how that one shakes out. And there's been a lot of different predictions about how the meta is going to go. So Super Anchors, who was on the podcast on episode 100, talked about his thought process that we're going to see a very monster tank heavy meta because of all their new bonuses that they get. and other people are seeing it very differently. So I'll be curious to see how it shakes out in the next few months.
So my thought on that is you're going to see very quick, very fast assault armies like Gene Stealer bombs backed up by Nidzilla. You're going to see the Leaf Blower list of 5th edition. You're going to see things like the, instead of the God Pattern Land Raider, you're going to see the God Pattern Executioner. You're going to see people run the Gladiator like crazy, triple of them with the double onslaught cannons. They're going to be seen everywhere. Space Wolves are going to be sitting at the top of the meta is my prediction. And my reasoning for that is Thunderwolf Cavalry plus the Outriders, each having 7 attacks apiece, is insane. Mm-hmm. So, and the fact that they can move through terrain now. And Imperial Knights can actually attack something on the 2nd floor. Yeah. I personally don't think that Imperial Knights will actually be playing too high. But they might be. I really got to see how it plays out. Swarm armies are pretty much screwed. Slaanesh is going to be really good, but the other Chaos Gods are probably going to sit where they're sitting. Aside from that, Necrons are going to be Necrons. They're going to sit at upper mid tier. That's my prediction for them. They're pretty good, but they still lack full maneuverability to get into combat. That being said, I have 2,500 points of Necrons that I built and painted in 2 weeks.
Impressive.
So yeah.
Plenty to see in the meta going forward, obviously with all the new points changes that have just happened and the fact that no one can play on anything other than a local anecdotal scale, apart from in certain parts of the world. I know that there's an AOS team tournament in New Zealand at the moment, I think happening this weekend, which made me really sad. I looked at the list, like 4 out of 4 teams are all running the same Change Host of Tzeentch, and 3 of them are running the same Ideneth build, and 2 of them are running the same Stormcast build. It's kind of sad, but yeah, we'll see.
New Zealand is hard flexing on the entire world right now. I give them full credit.
Quite so. But you mentioned this thing called the Gladiator, and while we're on that launch stream, we mentioned the codices, and they followed that up with a couple of other things. So the Space Marine Gladiator is basically the Primaris Predator. It comes with Las Talons or Punisher Onslaught Gatling cannons, and there's a third build with an anti-tank, looks like a battle cannon type thing.
It's a heavy las cannon, essentially. It's a 72-inch range las cannon.
Sounds like a Vanquisher gun in many ways. From the
it sounds like the las cannon back from 2nd edition.
It is the las cannon back from 2nd edition.
But yes, for once, I've been kind of mixed on the Space Marine grav tanks over and over, like Impulsors, Repulsors, and the Astraeus. I still don't like the Impulsor, but I do like the Gladiator. I think that adding that extra gun on top in particular has actually really helped the design. I actually like the Gladiator concept, at least in theory.
I like it because that damn thing is going to be busted. Like, straight up busted.
Yeah,
the double Gatling cannon, the option for taking a third Gatling cannon, all the weapons aborted, the mini hurricane bolters. Like, what's not to love about that thing?
I mean, I also want to give a shout out to someone in the Warp Time Radio Discord server who was watching the stream, and they flicked through the Codex at lightning speed in the video, and they clocked the Gladiator, because we'd all heard these rumors of Primaris land speeders. And they just clocked it, and then 2 minutes later they revealed the Gladiator. So I want to give a shout out to that person because that was very impressive, a really good spot. So, yep, new Predator for Primaris. And then they revealed the new Monolith, which we'd seen several weeks ago in one of the leaked, then formally revealed photographs. We'd seen the new Monolith, and they properly showed it off here with a new Eternity Gate, the removal of the giant green crystal of Ridiculous, and the addition of multiple layers where the inner layer is all made of Blackstone.
Mm-hmm. I'm really liking the new Monolith. It does make me sad, though, because I can't use... I have to now buy a couple of Monoliths off of eBay, the old ones, to turn into desk lamps.
Sorry.
But I'm also taking the new monolith and putting a D100 on it, where its ball is supposed to be.
Okay.
It is straight up a D100. Or the golf ball. You take your pick.
Indeed.
I think the golf ball's funnier.
Probably. And probably looks a little bit, you wouldn't have to paint over all the numbers and waste a good D100. But one thing I do
why would you be painting over the numbers? You leave them on there. It's a D100.
Fine.
Is this just going to be like that episode of Futurama when they were playing Dungeons and Dragons and like Freya had the magic D20?
Yes.
Right.
I
It
love
just drops
it.
there, it goes like 7, and like a Catan jumps out of the ground or something.
Jeez. But following the monolith and its very cool new Eternity Gate, I've said the best thing I think about that new model is the Eternity Gate, or the Portal of Exile, whatever it's called. No, the Eternity Gate's the one on Terry, you spanner. The Portal of Exile, where they've got the Necron Warrior walking out of it. I think that's a really good step up in design. But they then did a very quick run through of a bunch of new models that are going to be coming our way in snapshot form. So we got a full look at the Palatine, a battlefield commander, essentially a sororitas lieutenant. And we also got a snapshot of models for Skitarii, Drukhari, Orcs. We think Death Guard was the conversation that we had. We thought it was Death Guard.
Yeah, like Death Guard in our server as well, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a few models coming, and we're not sure quite what that's going to entail. So there's a lot of rumor going around that there's going to be a new Plastic Hesperax, and so we think that might be her. It looked to me like a redesign of the Orc Boys kit, just with this shape of the Slugger and Chopper. It didn't look like big enough to be anything more than an Orc Boy.
I thought it was going to be like a snake bite or something, because it looked like, you know, because the very rough looking leather, and the fact he looks like he's got like, you know, like a squid pelt on him or something.
Okay,
So,
Rem, hear me out. Hear me out. That dude is straight up going to turn somebody into a squig, and you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Old Zogwart had a staff. Unfortunately, the Orc we saw had a Slugger and Chopper.
Look, old Zogwart put his staff down.
I would love to see an Old Zogwart miniature, do not get me wrong. I just don't think that model was.
No, it definitely isn't. It's some kind of savage orc boy.
yeah, like
Too
I
high
thought it
tech
was
for a
gonna-
barrel.
I thought it was going to be a snake bite orc.
I think it'll probably just be a redesign of the Orc Boys kit that they happen to paint in snakebite colors, because I've painted 150 Orc Boys in my time, and the size of the model looked too small, and the weapons looked too basic to be a war boss or a knob. So I do think it's a new boys size model, because they haven't got room for a lieutenant character like they have with this Palatine. But the model that interests me, actually, surprisingly, was the Skitarii, because I think that they might be introducing a Skitarii HQ, like a Primus or something like that, to lead the army, so you don't have to take a Tech Priest in your Mechanicus army. You just want to run pure Skitarii.
I also want to talk about the Palatine.
Yep.
Do you know she leads five Battle Sister squads in a mission? You know, no one has no idea what I'm talking about right now. She's the lowest form of Canoness. In fact, all of their leaders are called Canonesses. It's just Canoness whatever after it. Canoness Superior is the overall one, where Canoness Palatine is actually just a squad leader who usually accompanies a Inquisitor. And you get 5 squads of sisters and all of the auxiliary units like the tanks and the Repentia and things of that nature.
It's sort of like, the best analogy I can still come up with is like this Polaris Lieutenant, like an in-training commander or a sub-commander type thing.
Yeah, more than likely. But we were actually talking about this. If they're going to discontinue the old Marines, which it definitely looks like they're going to, especially now that they keep... I do like the way GW is doing it. It's like, here's the Predator. You could still take the Predator. The Predator is a good amount of points, blah, blah, blah. The Predator is okay. Yeah, here's the Gladiator. It's the Predator, but better. So, which one are you going to take?
The one what comes to my mind is Thunder's Dawn of War Dark Crusade video with the Primaris, where it seems to be, the thought process seems to be, what if we give this unit this really cool ability and then apply that to every unit in the army? So Eradicators are better at their jobs than Fire Dragon Exarchs and have better guns. Outriders are better than pretty much every other mounted unit in the game that isn't a monster. And yes, I see you over there, Thunderwolves. I do see you over there.
Let me just tell you this really quickly. Anybody who thinks that the Eradicators are better than the Fire Dragons, go toe-to-toe with any Eldar player. They will dance around your army.
I'm not saying a well-piloted Eldar army won't run rings around them, but gun for gun, stat for stat, rule for rule, in a straight-up shooting match, I think, if I'm right, the Eradicator Melters have more range and double tap, and the Fire Dragons have neither.
I just realised it's a CS Goto reference. It's a reference to that novel where the Fire Dragons' fusion blasters couldn't melt through a wooden barricade, so they end up hijacking a Land Raider. Because their own tanks were crap.
We don't talk about CS Goto.
Correct.
But they're making it onto the tabletop, these references now. This cannot go on, this must be stopped.
That's fair. I fully agree with that.
What's next? We're going to have the Jump Pack Chaplains dual-wielding multi-melters.
I mean, we already got a Biker Chaplain, it's only a matter of time.
We had a Biker Chaplain 2nd edition, but he wasn't dual-wielding multi-melters.
In all fairness, he's not a biker, he's an outrider. Completely different, Michael. Tactica Imperialis. Completely different.
It is what it is. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how nuts the Primaris end up being. And I'm really glad that they have actually decided to show that, hey, we've given you all the Space Marines, we've given you all the Necrons, and it's not going to be like 8th edition where the rest of you can just wait 10 years for some support, unless your name is Sisters because you didn't have model range before that was any good. So it feels like they've actually decided to commit to updating models. Maybe not entire factions like they have done here, but at least most armies know they're in line for some support now. And that gives more hope to the other factions who've been getting naff all. I look at you, Tyranids, and I'm so sorry.
Hey, at least the Tyranids have newer models than the Imperial Guard. The newest thing they have is the Wyvern. Not counting the Scions, because technically the Scions are a different army.
I think that's right. I mean, I don't remember what was the last Tyranid model that came out?
The Malin Scepter. And the Damacaran.
Yes,
technically, you could say, the Gene Stealer Patriarch, technically.
Well, if we're not counting Scions, we're not counting the Patriarchs.
Fair enough.
The Gene Stealers, actually, the 2 of them that you get in that one box.
Oh, the pure strains. They technically belong in Gene Stealer cult, so if we're not counting Scions, we're not counting them, but who's keeping score? But anyway, yes.
The newest model. Yeah, their newest model is like in 2012, 2016, between 2012 and 2014. Imperial Guard's newest model was 6th edition.
Yeah, which is ended in 2014.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been a while for some armies, and hopefully we'll get there eventually. But there has been plenty more revealed not plenty more. There's been bits and bobs shown along the way over the last week, aside from this big mega reveal stream, of course. We got to see a bit of look into the defensive riser expansion for Titanicus. Not that I really kept tabs on it, but most notably, aside from an app that didn't work, we got the new starter sets for 40k, the Recruit, Elite, and Command Edition, which marked for me a very interesting shift away from the box game era of Dark Imperium, Dark Vengeance, where they really downscaled the boxes.
I do want to point this out in defense of the app. They launched that during a pandemic while everybody was not there. I give them full props for trying.
Yeah, full marks for trying, still didn't work.
It is working. They're working on it. Give them time.
Yep, they've laid out
it's
a roadmap.
like a beta game.
Yeah, I think it's just a case of, we're going to give you an app and Battlescribe will never... They didn't say this, but essentially, we're going to replace Battlescribe for all of you, and then it didn't work on launch, and the actual army builder feature is like 3 months out. So it's just
in all fairness, it's still in beta.
They didn't say
just
that. They didn't say that, did they?
Yes.
Must have missed that one. Whoops.
Yeah, I still give them full props for what they're doing during a pandemic. I'm just standing there. I do realize that the app isn't that great, but it has a skeleton that is really solid.
Yeah, it's called the AOS app, which they made 4 years ago, and it's very good.
Give it like another few months, and I guarantee that app will be really good.
The question becomes, are you willing to pay for it to replace Battlescribe?
Yeah. It's 13 cents a day. If you can't afford that, you're poor.
It's less can't afford it, more like why pay when Battlescribe is right there?
Because it has the quick reference sheets to every single rule, including the FAQs, automatically updated.
And if you press the info button on for a data sheet on Battlescribe, you get the data sheet in full, and I believe they keep track of FAQs, but I couldn't be sure.
It's also technically not stolen IP, but
Yeah, I'm just making the argument of the selling point is not, you've got to have a selling point over the free option, aside from if you don't use the paid option, we'll just slap you for stolen IP. That's not GW. That's never been GW.
You don't pay for Battlescribe?
Nope.
Oh, I do.
I don't.
Yeah, I pay for it so I can name all of my units.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I don't. But yeah, that's what I mean. Is that if you want your army builder to be there, you've got to have an incentive to make it work. Like the AOS app and Azir works over Battlescribe because Battlescribe's AOS updates are usually a bit very slow. And
yeah, I'll give it that. It definitely needs to match the AOS one at least. And it is not perfect, obviously. Battlescribe is better, is superior to it currently. But I do think given enough time, at least 3 months, it will be something worth looking into.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's very, very fair. Right, starter sets. I haven't really seen many mixed opinions on this at all. Or maybe I've just been living under a rock.
I gotta say this right now. I love what GW did for this exact thing, because I'm just imagining like all the scalpers who bought like 50 boxes of Indominus. They're like, ha ha ha, these sets are never going to come out again. GW, we printed more.
Yeah, the made to order for Indomitus was genius, but we're past that now. These are the boxes that are going to replace Indomitus.
Which have all the Indomitus models in it.
So the Cadet, Commander, and something else edition was
Recruit, Elite, Command. So Recruit. So Recruit is a gaming map, some warriors, some intercessors, some scarabs, the Royal Warden, and the Lieutenant. It's designed as a baby's first Warhammer, so great for teaching or your first ever games. And I suspect many stores will use that as their teaching game, though they may go for the Elite Edition, which adds the Outriders and the Scorpex and replaces the heroes with the Captain and the Overlord. Which is probably a decent box. But if you want the rule book, you have to buy the Command Edition, where you get exactly the same models, but you also get the rule book and some brand new terrain. And my only question is, aside from the rule book, which most people buy, well, I say most people buy the big one, that's not true to the full extent, but a lot of people will already own the big one. What's the selling point of Command Edition if it's, let's say, £25 more for a smattering of terrain that will fill up half a realm of battle tile or two?
So I don't see the middle one as being worth it at all. You're going to buy the big one or the small one. The small one is equivalent to No Fear. It has pretty much the exact same model count, except the units are a little bit better. But the biggest one, having that unique terrain exclusive to it for at least 5 months, is going to be the big selling point. On top of that, the Outriders are kind of amazing, and everybody is going to want them.
But they're in the middle box as well. And I understand the terrain is an argument, but not a lot of people buy a box with the mindset of terrain. I appreciate them putting terrain in the box. I think it's a great decision because it introduces how important terrain will be to 40k. Brilliant move. But if you're trying to sell someone a box, what's my unique selling point? I have a realm of battle tiles worth of terrain in me. Okay.
Well, here's the main selling point, and I should know this. I've worked in the industry for 8 years now. People love terrain. GW's terrain sells so quickly they can barely keep it on the shelf. In fact, It's in rotation every 3 months now, which makes it the second fastest thing to rotate out of GW's line aside from Space Marines. The terrain being exclusive to that box, as well as a rulebook. The rulebook being about $60, the terrain being about $60, the Outriders being about $60. You're already looking at over $180. The box set is $200. It can be split down the middle. It is honestly pretty solid for its money. It's not as good as Indominus, which is a $600 box for $200, which is ridiculously freaking good. But overall, I see the terrain as the main selling point, as well as those Outriders.
Yeah, I suppose I'm maybe undervaluing terrain because I'm looking at that. I already own the big rulebook. I don't need this 184 mini rulebook. I already own one.
Especially now during a pandemic where everybody is playing at their house.
Yes,
you can't go to your locals anymore currently you can't go to your locals to play games there. So having a box set that you can split, have a battle mat in it, and have terrain, it's solid for starting a game. And since they made the board size smaller, which was a genius move by GW, considering that it makes it so that they can have more tournament tables, more people to enter events, and now people can play on their kitchen table, it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, maybe. You're probably right. And you've got the experience of all this stuff about terrain sales and all that. I guess it's just because coming up through 5th edition through 8th, like in 5th edition, terrain really was there as a line of sight blocker and nothing else. Difficult terrain was annoying, but not that bad. And we just never really valued terrain that highly in my gaming group. It was there for decoration and to stand on. It didn't play a fundamental role. 8th edition gutted the terrain rules, so it mattered even less. So I guess my mindset on terrain has got to shift from it's nice if it's there, but you'll manage if it's not, to this is like the third player in the game and it's fundamental again. And I guess I've got to relearn that, and I'm undervaluing it as a result, possibly. But we'll see.
A lot of people undervalued and missed all the terrain rules because there's an entire update that is over 25 pages of terrain rules for 8th edition, which are all really solid rules, by the way, like barricades and barriers and their interaction with the game, swamps and trees, how they interacted with the game. They were all there in 8th edition. It's just that nobody used them for some reason. In fact, knowing those rules going into a tournament, even as a bad player, but knowing the terrain rules gave you an advantage.
Absolutely, makes sense. So yeah, we'll see how. I don't think they've confirmed their release officially. No, obviously you might know things, but officially they've not been given a release date. I'm guessing that they will be in mid-September, so that there's a little bit of scarcity of those models before the Codex release in October. So I suspect they'll come before the codices. That's what box games generally do. But
I actually think they'll I'm pretty sure GW has finally caught on to when release schedules need to be. And I think they are going to release them in October, November.
In November, that's very tight to Christmas.
That's actually perfect. So you two might not know this, but if you do, I'm not saying... Yeah. Anyway, the highest selling months of the year in all businesses is around October, November, gearing up for Christmas. December sales aren't as good as November sales. That's why all the new games like Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed are all scheduled to come out around November.
For October, I remember being afraid.
Yep. October, November months. Because that is the perfect time to release new things. But knowing GW, they're going to trickle the models in to keep us buying, which is honestly one of the smartest ideas that they've been doing. Which is why their sales figure from just the previous year have doubled. Their stock value is now at 100 when last year was at 50.
Oh yeah, GW on a business front have made it done really well, even really before Indomitus, like the sales figures up to June were insane. And I appreciate lockdown helped in certain parts, but they were shut down for a good 2 months as well. So it's
Also,
very impressive.
Giving some props to GW, they did pay back the debt they owed to the country for the COVID.
They did. They paid the furlough loans back early. They did do that.
Mm-hmm. And they kept every one of their employees employed.
Yeah, not going to make a snarky remark. I'm going to get political if I do that, so I'm going to move on. But one thing notable about its absence in those starter boxes was the Blade Guard veterans. They've shown off some alternate Blade Guard models, and there'll be a full kit release for them at some point, probably around the time of the Space Marines Codex. And interestingly, you can take them without shield.
I can explain that one too. I can explain why they're missing from the box. In the sprue on the sprue for the Indominus box, they shared it with the Eradicators, and the Eradicators don't make an appearance in the box.
That also makes them 100%.
Mm-hmm. It's why those ones are going to be unique strictly to Indominus for quite some time before the new set comes out.
Possibly. Obviously, the Blade Guard are not going to be exclusive for that long if they're already showing them off now, but then again, I say that, and like some of the LVO models, no, lockdown. Anyway, moving on swiftly, because we've got, so there's just a chunk of stuff to get through, and probably one of the more interesting ones is the return of Forge World. Forge World's back, and Kinzar is the first of their new pre-orders, which is good to see. Forge World are back doing new releases. Obviously, their web store came back a few weeks ago, but they're now back in the game, and they say that sort of they're getting back up to speed to get ready for the Lion in particular, as well as the Hive Escher, Gang Escher stuff for Necromunda, and the Arbus Lighters for Aeronautica. So plenty to look forward to from Forge World. Just looking.
Random side tangent. Did you know that Adeptus Titanicus has a ban list?
I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm not. I know what Underworlds does. Yeah,
and even in common games, they banned the Porphyron. I thought that was really funny. They're like, no, that thing is overpowered.
And the Porphyrion was a bit nuts, even in like actual mainline 40k/30k, as far as I remember.
Hey, let's put 4 volcano cannons on an Imperial Knight. This isn't broken, right? Nah, it's fine.
Indeed. But one thing that obviously also happened was Black Library Character Week with all of the book releases, and I saw a very, very annoyed Disharmonia on Twitter talking about the Night Lords.
Oh yes, basically how pretty much everyone outside of outside of the UK is being overcharged, essentially.
Yeah, I mean that's nothing new. It's shocking, but it is nothing new that if you aren't on the UK prices, the GW exchange rate is bad. It's just bad.
Okay, so this is what you do. Since you two are in the Britain land, you two buy the books for Disharmonia and send it to her.
I mean, bear in mind that it all comes out first on the New Zealand store, which is 12 hours ahead of us, so we've already missed it half the time. And sometimes they drop them when we're in bed, which Rem and Sons of the Settlement are would like a word.
Or they get rid of the damn Ephrael Stern Demonofuge special edition and then sell it on eBay for $350, and I can't afford it.
And that leads into Remleiz's main points of the week.
I can afford it, but I'm still mad about it. I don't want to pay that much.
Don't worry, the new Ephrael Stern novel, unfortunately, is not that good.
Is it at least better than Pariah?
Well, the Psychic Awakening?
Yeah.
If not, let me put it this way. Kiganel's only in the book for about 3 chapters. He just fucks off, never to come back, and is never heard from again.
Do we need a spoiler warning?
Yes, you will.
Okay, spoiler warning in effect now. Carry on.
Right, something CM Punk. Anyway, there's a scene.
I love that little boy toy.
Same joke.
I know it's the same joke. I don't care. But anyway, so an unfortunately high amount of the book in the early going is pretty much just Stern can't getting over the fact that, Gilliman's back. It's like, I hear Gilliman's back. Oh, well, no, Gilliman's back. Is this true? Oh, it's like, yes, I know Gilliman coming back is a big deal, but does it really need to be such a huge bloody focus? There's a bit where she and Kig, go into the webway and meet up with Ephrael. And this is about for a chapter, give or take, but the entire conversation can be boiled down to this. We need your help. Haven't I helped enough by bringing Gilliman back? Gilliman's back? Gilliman's back. Squee! Now go get me a solitaire. That's pretty much the entirety of the conversation.
That's Phoenix Rising. That's literally the story of Phoenix Rising. She goes and gets a solitaire because somehow she can find one.
But this actually takes place before Phoenix Rising, it seems, because she doesn't actually find a solitaire yet in this book. But anyway, moving on.
One of the things in Phoenix Rising is that they have to go out to find the solitaire, and then they skip to... They never explain how they found the solitaire. The solitaire is just there.
Yeah, it's not mentioned in this book either, don't worry.
But okay, perfect.
But moving on, at this point, Stern is in Imperium Nihilus. She thinks the Imperium has been destroyed, and then until she hears Gilliman's back, and then she can't stop shouting up about Gilliman being back. But she gets picked up by this Inquisitor, and they end up travelling to Imperium Sanctus. And they go to this world that had been taken over by a Chaos cult to help the Order of Our Martyred Lady. And pretty much every interaction on that world is like, Ephrael Stern's a saint. I'm not a saint. Only a saint says they're not a saint. Now let's go shoot this next wave of cultists. And then right at the end, it's like, oh, the word bearers were responsible for this all along. Yeah, introducing your main villain in the last 2 to 3 chapters of the story is kind of bad. Because it's like, okay, so why should I give a fuck about this?
Spider-Man 3 did?
Kind of, yeah, but that's why Spider-Man 3 was shit.
We don't talk about Spider-Man 3. The other two are really good.
Yeah. Like, this demon answer or whatever the the one from Shadowspear, that new demon summoner type.
Master of Possession.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like one of those who's like the main villain, even though we've already had these chaos cultists running around and these zombie sisters of battle as part of this cult. Wow. And then all of a sudden, the big fortress turns into a giant fucking robot thingy, and then just randomly blows up.
What? What?
Wait, that's the story of Faith and Fire. So that book is just filler for the Psychic Awakening.
I mean, the entire Psychic Awakening is filler.
This is filler for the filler.
I mean, some of the stories are kind of good. Like, the Phoenix Rising one is actually probably the best. The Blood of Baal is probably the worst.
I mean, I really agree to George where literally nothing happens, and Saga of the Beast, where the actual main event isn't in book 6, it's in the side novel.
Look, I don't even care about Saga of the Beast. That book was just straight out garbage. When they said that Space Wolves howled and gave away their positions and the orcs ambushed and killed them, I was just like, wow, I lost more respect than I expected for the Space Wolves.
Now, in fairness, the very early part of this novel, aside from the whole Gilliman gushing thing, there were some really interesting ideas in this, because, like, Stern was, like, travelling from world to world, trying to purge chaos from each world to try and win back the favour of the Emperor, because she thinks the Emperor has turned his back on her, and so she's on this shrine world collecting all of these holy relics, and, like, pretty much going Super Saiyan to fight off a demonic incursion by herself. Like, she's literally flying around, like, in a big lightning shield through lava and stuff like that, like, to be a great unclean one.
As you do.
As you do.
In all fairness, that's nothing new.
But once they get off that world and move into Imperium Sanctus, it just collapses like a flower in a cupboard. Unfortunately, it's just
British thing I've heard.
I was going to say collapsing like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but hey.
Ouch! Historical burn.
But yeah, this book is nowhere near as good as Demonifuge. Demonifuge was good. This is a resounding eh.
So, you want to know the story to Pariah?
Go on, then.
Okay, so Illuminator...
Okay, sorry, just before you do, are we done talking about the Ephrael Stern novels so I can bring everybody else back?
Yes.
It depends on what Alexis says.
Okay.
This is also going to be spoilers for Pariah.
Alright.
So, in the book Pariah, the Illuminator's back, and he's all like, hey, I got myself a shiny new body. Also, we retconned the Necron lore. Don't question it. It's kind of just the thing. Every other edition we do it. But anyway, he's all like, haha, Psychers are dangerous. I'm going to activate the Blackstones. Ephrael Stern and Draxus are just like, nah, don't do that. You're actually a huge threat to the Imperium. I'm going to do it. Don't do it. Well, I'm going to do it. And he does it. And then he's just like, haha, you can't use your Psychers now. Sisters come in. Sisters start shooting everything. Necrons start shooting sisters. It's a fun time for everybody. Then, halfway through it, Ephrael Stern is just like, hey, you want to see a cool magic trick? And the Illuminator's like, okay, I'm curious. Except the Illuminator actually isn't in the story, really. He's just kind of watching the story play out. And he's just like, the Blackstone is activated. She can't do anything. She starts smiting people flying around golden. He's like, I'm leaving now. This is dangerous. So he starts leaving. Draxus summons up a shard of the Catan, which is definitely the Void Dragon. But they never actually say what Satan it is, because it's a mystery. It's definitely not the one they just released for Pariah. Well, they didn't release it yet, but they revealed it for Pariah. And Draxus is all like, hey, do you want to destroy these Necrons for us? And Void Dragon's just like, yeah, it sounds awesome. I hate these guys. Cool, can you teleport us away? Yeah, sure. Claps his cheeks, summons her back to the
He clapped his cheeks.
Yep.
I remember Z going absolutely apoplectic about the teleports the humans back to their ships.
See, when you said that the Catan clapped his cheeks, I'm just now imagining the Catan doing an impression of Ace Ventura, saying, hello, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Yep, that's pretty much what happened. Also, the interdimensional teleportation of the Necrons is nothing new. Where do you think they got that technology from? Got it from the Void Dragon.
Yeah, the Void Dragon was the one to breach the webway. I vaguely remember that bit. Was it the Void Dragon who showed them Dolmen Gate tech? I forget. There was a Catan who allowed them to breach the webway back in the War in Heaven. That's nothing new.
But anyway,
depends on
she gets back aboard the ship and is all like, I feel like I wasted all of my time. The Necrons are destroyed. I guess this is a victory.
She feels she wasted her time. Everyone who read the Pariah and Psychic Awakening in general feels like they wasted their time.
Hey, I like some of the Psychic Awakenings, except for the bad ones. I like at least one book from Psychic Awakening.
There were 9.
Hey, look, 1 in 9 is still 1 in 9.
I mean, I don't even know what happened with the showdown in Cadia with Fabius Bile and the Death Guard. Like, that sounded like it might be interesting, and yet no one talked about it.
Oh, I can tell you what happened. Fabius Bile went, I caught a custodian. Okay, I'm leaving.
Yeah, sounds like Bo.
that was literally it. He's like, I figured out how you guys are made. Need a mosquito. I'm gonna pick up this custodian. Custodians are everywhere now. Why are you guys everywhere? Oh, you're allowed off Terra. Neat. We're gonna fill up some more useless trivia about the lore currently. Okay, I'm gonna leave. Can you guys kill the Death Guard for me?
Now, who wants pizza?
And he just leaves, and the Death Guard fight against the damn custodians.
Fair enough.
Oh, and the assassin bits in it are actually really good. Except for the guy who catches the Vindicari assassin's bullet mid-air and throws it back at him.
What?
Yes, that happens.
It's basically...
Yeah,
it's that bit from Kung Fu Panda 2, but in super fast mode.
The chapter master of the made-up chapter for the book, which has no previous records at all ever, and I checked everything. He was all like, I'm mutating into a demon prince. Vindicari assassin shoots him, catches bullet, throws it back. The other assassin comes after him.
Okay, if he's mutating into a demon, I can actually buy that a bit more rather than just
Chronomancy powers, yeah, fine, chronomancy.
Rather than just, like, oh no, I'm better catch this bullet between my teeth. Ching!
Yeah, there's a difference between catching a bullet and slowing time down to catch a bullet.
In all fairness, he's mid-transformation, and last I checked, Captain Titus shoulder-checked a demon prince.
Yeah, that's true.
But
so did Aeonid Theo. Everyone seems to forget that Aeonid Theo did as well.
And so did Celestine.
It was funny when Aeonid Theo did, because it was Kurth Ascend who was ascending to demonhood. He's like, and he makes this huge big grand monologue saying, "And now I ascend," and then Theo just goes up to me and goes, "You die!" And literally like, just stabs him.
Grim dark setting, everybody.
Well, in fairness, Aeonid Theo was always a bit of a smart ass.
Yeah, Aeonid Theo was either the best or worst Ultramarine, depending on how much you like Guilliman.
I like Guilliman, so probably the best to me.
And in fairness, after the heresy, Aeonid Theo did become captain of the Second Company.
Indeed, right.
And then he died.
Are we done with the Ephrael Stern novel so I can close the spoilers and get people back on the show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Though I will want to eventually talk about the Regent's Shadow, because I actually finished that as well, and I never actually got a chance to finish talking about that.
Okay, good. Welcome back, spoiler people. We talked a lot about Psyche Awakening while you were gone. Sorry. So the Ephrael Stern novel is in the books. However good you may think or it is or isn't. I can't really say I've really had a chance to read much. I have bought the Armageddon Saint, the Last Chances novel, actually. But I haven't had a chance to read it yet because I've been trying to furnish a house. But I did finish Soul Wars, the AOS 2 intro novel, which was quite cool, where Nagash turns a Stormcast into a undead Stormcast, which was quite an interesting read.
Bonecast.
It's without an actual physical image of them, it's hard to describe quite how Stormcasty they were, but it was a very interesting read, and you get time with Sigmar and with Nagash, and the ending's actually really good, because the whole time, a lot of the discussion has been done by Arkan the Black, the Mortar of Sacrament, and Nagash's right-hand skeleton.
Right-hand skeleton.
Close enough. Chief Vizier. We'll go with that. Chief Vizier. And Arkan is involved in the recruitment and sort of the training and the command of this Stormcast Death Lord, alongside a Flesh Eater Lord, a Death Rattle Lord, and a Knight of Shrouds. And the Knight of Shrouds is the one who gets involved in the Soul Wars box game, but that happens off screen because, plot.
They should really make one of the books just Rattle Me Bones.
I mean, to be fair, that's one of Nagash's nicknames is something like that.
Bone Daddy Nagash.
No,
That's Crows.
There is genuinely a nickname for Nagash that I forgot that is something like Rattlebones, and I've forgotten its exact name.
Poor Lord, dude. I do love people who call him that.
So, that twat from Kemri.
That's that is Nagash. I nearly said that Cetra, but Cetra's too cool for that. Anyway, so the book ends, or the book's coming to an end, and we get to the epilogue after everything's been resolved and this not Stormcast has been dealt with. And in the climax of the battle between the not Stormcast and the Lord Arcana, basically they end up becoming avatars of Sigmar and Nagash respectively. And Sigmar and Nagash have a chat / argument / magical smashfest. And Arkan then has a chat with Manfred at the end in the epilogue about, your plan failed, didn't it? No. Well, sort of, but no. Because that's the first time in 2 eons that Sigmar and Nagash have had a conversation. So I don't know if Josh Reynolds was trying to hint at the idea of the reformation of the Pantheon of Order. I don't know if that's what he was going for, or whether he just wanted to have this idea of a dialogue between Sigmar and Nagash again, because they haven't talked since Sigmar made the Stormcast and Nagash stormed off in a huff. Nagash got his butt kicked by Archaon. So it was just a really interesting read at the end, and I quite liked it. I bought the Lady Olinda novel as well, which I'm hoping to read at some point, because I'm in a mood for some of the AOS death stuff, because I've read all the elf stuff. I need to wait for more elves till the Lumineth novel comes out.
I actually just finished Cadian Honors.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, the first half of the book is ridiculously good, and then they start fighting, and the fighting is written.
So when's it set? Is it post Fall of Cadia? Am I right?
Yep, post Fall of Cadia, before Guilliman comes back.
Okay, so are they still on Cadia then?
No,
No.
it's the aftermath to Cadia Stands. Or it's a sequel to Cadia Stands, rather.
Yep.
Right. I never get all the books square in my head.
But yeah, the way they depict PTSD in that book, oh my god, like it was amazing.
I'm sure. Who wrote that? Was it? Who wrote it?
I have the audiobook of it. Check real quick. Actually, I can't because it'll kick me out of Discord if I do.
Justin D. Hill. So Justin Hill is Cadian Honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a really good author then.
Yeah, I'm sure that they did some cross-referencing. If it's not there, even if they don't know about it, particularly from personal experience, hopefully they'll have done some good cross-referencing research. But it sounds like they have, which is great. Great to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything in particular in that book aside from it's just good? Is there anything interesting about the plot or what it reveals about Cadia or anything else?
Well, it reveals that the Cadians can no longer recruit until they took back the Cadian sector, which happened later in the Indominus Crusade. They took back Cadia being the sector itself, not just the broken up planet.
Yeah, they took back the Cadian Gate, if you like.
Yeah. Aside from that, just the way they depict PTSD, the way they depict the Cadians and how they were always the most elite, and now everybody sees them as failures, is really cool because everybody blames them for what happened.
But they won.
And they don't view it as a victory.
Yeah, well, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, they lost, but they won the battle. Celestine almost killed Abaddon, and Abaddon got petty and threw a Blackstone fortress at the bloody planet. So
yeah.
Technically, Cadians won, and then Abaddon just had a hissy fit. But...
Well, I mean, Abaddon won what he was supposed to do. He literally tore the galaxy in half.
Yeah, they seem to have retconned the idea that the entire goal of the 13 Black Crusades was the Noctis Aeterna. The rulebook seems to imply that as well.
Mm-hmm. Which I really, really, really enjoyed. I love the way that they depict the people having nightmares about the battle itself and how they fought things that they couldn't explain. How Chaos Space Marines, how they have a view of Space Marines now with fear instead of awe because of the Chaos Space Marines. And I really liked it.
Actually, there's a great story in the rulebook about not the same thing, but there's a story in the rulebook of a guardsman regiment being overrun by a cultist horde, and their priest prays to the emperor, as you do, and the whole battle line takes it up. And then one guardsman steps out of the line and just starts smiting everyone. I mean, literally smiting everyone, not just punching and shooting, magically smiting everyone. And the priest is like, "We're saved! He's a saint! He's a saint!" 30 seconds later, he explodes into a portal, out come the Chaos Space Marines, bing, bang, bosh, everyone's dead.
Yeah.
That
I mean, some of the Chaos stories are really well written, and it's just I like the way that they deceive and manipulate people's faith in order to, summon more demons, turn people against the Imperium, and all sorts of things. And then there's what the Alpha Legion does, which is laughably stupid and horribly inaccurate. It's so bad.
I mean, cartoon supervillainy.
Not even. Cartoon supervillains occasionally win. The Alpha Legion is just written so poorly. It's the one time whenever I see, the fan base is just oh, they're so good at espionage, and they do, all of these crazy tactics, and they always, you never know if they win or lose. I'm like, yeah, that's your version of it. Here's the actual lore that says they always lose forever because my favorite was they accidentally gave a planet too much faith, and the planet saw through their deception and killed all the demons that appeared.
Unless we forget the
just like-
Catan shard that was... Actually, they did win that one where the Deceiver was pretending to be a Primarch. They did win that one.
Yep.
It's
It's quite funny, that one, actually, because like, oh my god, it's Omicron. And then you had some cryptic going, it's like, nah, bitch, that's the Deceiver. It's like, oh shit.
I remember when that book was revealed, Sons of the Hydra, and they sort of said, oh my god, there was a third Alpha Legion Primarch, everyone panic! And then it turned out it was the Deceiver all along. We're just like, yeah.
It was the Deceiver cosplaying Omicron.
Like, yeah,
Oh,
the Deceiver didn't just deceive the Alpha Legion, he deceived the entire fan base for all of 5 minutes, which was quite impressive.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Who is the cartoon supervillain of Warhammer 40,000 then?
It's
The meme answer would be Abaddon. That's the meme answer.
What?
if Aaron Densky-Bowden isn't writing Abaddon, it's Abaddon. If not, I would say it's Horan Blackheart or the Alpha Legion.
Kieran wins quite a lot. He's got his own empire in the Maelstrom. Everyone
And
fights
a Blackstone Fortress.
and a pet Blackstone Fortress. Everyone fights for his amusement to gain his forces, like Honsu did.
Yeah, I love Skeletor.
Yeah.
He's literally written as Skeletor.
I mean, probably my answer
So
would
who's He-Man?
be
Good
Hero
question.
Queen. Probably Neil Stormcaller, because, lightning powers.
Yeah, lightning.
But probably my answer for cartoon superhero would probably actually be Gazgul.
I wouldn't put Gazgul because written in the Orc's perspective, Gazgul is actually like really fierce, and the fact that he took down 8 or 11 Blackstone fortresses by himself is impressive enough.
11 Blackstone fortresses.
Not Blackstone fortresses, Watch fortresses. My bad, the
Well-
Death Watch.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was gonna say, where did
Sorry, there's so much black and fortress and death, and you get it. There a lot of names in 40k overlap. Like, hey, look, this is my Death Watch army. We're going up against Death Guard. There's the Death Wing.
Yeah, point taken.
How do we make it grim dark? Add death and something. These are the death hamsters.
My point with Gazgul is that everything Gazgul does off screen is
It's amazing.
but that's the point. Any supervillain can do cool things off screen. Every time Gazgul is on screen, he captures Yarrick and idly tortures him and then lets him go so that he can have a good fight when he launches his second invasion, but then gets bored and leaves, gets yelled at by the gods for being lazy and not doing his job, gets thrown halfway across the galaxy, he pushes his way out of a tyrannid that ate him, and then just teleports around the galaxy, then gets his head chopped off by a random space wolf. And yes, I know it's Ragnar Blackmane, but no. Ragnar Blackmane should not be doing that to Gazgul.
If anyone was going to
Ragnar
cut off
Blackmane.
Gazgul's head, it should have been Yarrick. Let's be bloody honest.
Or at
Should've
least
been.
somebody worth mentioning. Like a space wolf, really? I'm sorry, the space wolves are cool and everything for their own little thing, but Alright, go ahead.
Can you imagine how cool it would have been if like Yarrick and Gazgul had a fight and then Yarrick just used his power claw to rip off Gazgul's head? That would have been awesome.
And obviously with Ragnar having to cross the Rubicon Primaris, have it be at the cost of Yarrick's own life. His lifelong goal has been to kill Gazgul Thraka, and he does, but he is ripped apart and crushed in the claw, or is blasted through by the shooter, or is simply crushed under his mega armor and cannot get out before he finally, his iron will, he's like, I'm done. And he's won now, he can rest. Psych,
And then Grotzik goes and stitches his head back together. It's like,
yeah, Psych Grotzik happens. That would be
Grotzik runs up, takes his head.
But I think that would just be a better end. I understand that they needed to Primarisify Ragnar because his model was terrible, but did it have to be at the cost of taking off Gazgul's freaking head? Like, couldn't he have just killed all of Ghazghkul's lieutenants and very badly wounded Ghazghkul, or just, landed a couple of hits before he got ripped in half, rather than actually take his head off?
If he was going to cut off the head of a big-name orc warlord, why not just go for one who, hasn't been given any bloody attention in years? Maybe like Nazdreg, for example.
Orchimedes. Ghazghkul's chief mech, Orchimedes. Perfectly brilliant character who's been really useful for the plot of War Ghazghkul. It's a crippling effect on the Great War, but it doesn't kill Ghazghkul.
Or, they could have killed, Snekrat or Wazdaka.
Wazdaka's in Sol, in Segmentum Solar, Snickrot's on Armageddon, Ghazghkul's off in the Eastern Fringe, so they're kind of all over the place. Nazdreg is a good shout, though, with Piscina 4.
In all fairness, it's orcs. They're wherever the plot needs them.
Literally, in the case of Ghazghkul, who teleports around using warp rifts, apparently.
And we know that Wazdaka Gunsmech can teleport as well. That's his lore from 4th edition, where he built the biggest racetrack in the galaxy.
Oh, that's Super Highway, or whatever it was called.
That's his plan. His plan was to build a super highway where he could jump into the webway and come out the other side somewhere else. He never actually done it in 4th edition. I don't know if they changed that. But as a 4th edition...
In all fairness, they discontinued him after that, so...
He does come up in every codex since. He's named in every codex. To be fair.
Named, but no model, so it's practically pointless.
I know.
Just like Nazdreg, who hasn't had a model since 2nd edition.
Wazdaka never had one.
Yeah, Wazdaka has never had a model. I also
Do you know who
think
needs to come back?
Nazdreg's-
Do you know who needs to come back? Zodgrod Wartsnagger.
I know that name, but I forget from where.
The runt herd who has his army of Commando Gretchen and super snotlings.
Yep.
Weird.
Fully agree.
We will see. Right, how are we doing? About an hour and 20. Should we do some questions? We didn't do questions last episode. What with it being 100?
Last episode's 101.
We had, but no one asked questions on 100. That's my point. We didn't have time because we talked for too much.
It was 2 episodes in a row we didn't have questions.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a backlog. So good luck.
Sure. Okay, in the lore, the Crimson Fists and Black Templars were involved in a crusade known as the Declates Crusade. In this crusade, the chapters had mixed squads and had exchanges in chapter iconography, with the Templars painting one of their fists crimson, and the Crimson Fists painting their knee pads with a Templar cross. Have there been any examples of other chapters doing this?
Yes, the Blood Ravens. Quite literally, the Blood Ravens send, and it's in their White Dwarf, they send a freaking librarian, because they have so many of them, to train other Lecticios. And they take iconography when they do so. It's literally their lore.
I missed that. I got that White Dwarf. Must have missed that tidbit.
Yeah. I actually really like the retcon to them.
I know that with the Hells, like a lot of Black Templar Crusades, there's a sort of a common symbol for the Crusade. So maybe the Hell's Reach Crusade, maybe the Celestial Lions borrowed some of their imagery as the combined symbol of the Hell's Reach Crusade. I don't know, but that one of the Blood Ravens I hadn't heard before is a really good example.
I mean, technically, the warrior serfs of the Ultramarines, the Ultramar Auxilia, they take the iconography of the Ultramarines. It's a stretch, but
it was probably theirs first.
Yeah, probably.
I think it's more, well, since the Ultramar Auxiliary are associated with the Ultramarines by default, or both being, Ultramar, I think it's more of a case of, has there been a case of something like, say, the Blood Angels, for example, adopting, Ultramarine iconography, when fighting alongside them for the sake of brotherhood, kind of thing.
There's Acadian honors. They take in a bunch of people from different regiments that have all been broken up. They reunify the Acadians up to a full squad, and they all take the Acadian look.
Yeah,
but as the Space Marines, I don't know.
Yeah, I heard about that with Acadians, how they recruit and they just become, the ones they accept become Acadians in air quotes.
Wait a minute. In the book Censor, where it's a Ultramarine and an Imperial or a Sola Exilia with a long las, which is like the coolest thing ever because that dude kills like 3 Space Marines in it in 1 shot each. But aside from that, the Ultramarine, to get at the word bearers, paints his armor as a word bearer and carries the Ultramarine helm with the dead guy's head in it, and walks up to infiltrate them.
It's not quite the same thing, though, is it?
No, it isn't, but it's kind of a cool mention.
It is a cool thing, yeah, but not quite the same thing.
And I guess you could just say the Alpha Legion, but that doesn't matter. Because that's the literal same thing.
I know there was... Oh, bloody hell, what was it? There was... Oh, I can't remember if it was a Guard regiment. It probably was a Guard regiment, but they fought alongside the Imperial Fists and actually adopted the Fist insignia onto their uniform. Even though they weren't associated with Terror or Imwit or Necron or anything like that. It was like, they just happened to be thrust together and they're like, okay, we'll just adopt that as a sign of our courage, sort of thing.
I hadn't heard that, but...
Sorry, it wasn't the Imperial Fist. It was Blood Angels. It was the Blood Angels and... It wasn't the Maccabian Janissaries, but it was another regiment called the Janissaries. Because actually it had the Blood Angels icon on their... This is from the Blood Quest audio drama.
Yeah, because I think that's also referenced in Blood of Baal.
Was it?
Did I see Blood Quest was coming back? No, probably not.
No, Blood Quest is actually getting reissued, though.
Yeah, I haven't read Blood of Baal, so I can't actually comment on that one, unfortunately.
Blood Quest was back from 1997, so you're fine.
Yeah, but obviously the other reference there was Psychic Awakening 3, and I haven't read that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's a small mention, but that's about it.
Okay.
Again, a lot of the stuff in the Psychic Awakenings, the small tidbits of story are more interesting than the damn story itself.
Sounds about right, yeah. Oh well.
Like Gene Stealer cult piloting freaking Tau battle suits. Do I want that? Absolutely. But anyway, next question.
I just want Green Stealer armies to be a thing on the tabletop again, but hey. Okay. Even though Games Workshop would never admit it with the massive influx of Marines into the Ultramarines chapter, and their involvement in every conflict across the galaxy deploying whole companies everywhere, are the Ultramarines essentially a legion now?
No. Technically, you could say the Grey Shields were a legion, and that's why Gilliman was so adamant of splitting them up.
Yeah, I think if you put together every Ultramarine successor under one banner, you would get a legion, but they don't operate like that. They're not like the Dark Angels or the Blood Angels or the Imperial Fists, where they have actual,
I mean, the Dark Angels are quite literally still a legion.
Exactly, but their numbers there's not enough of them to really constitute a legion if you put them all together again. They just operate like one. Whereas the Imperial Fists, they had if they put all their successes together, because they've been a lot more sired down the years and successes to their successes, you probably could if you redid the Last War Protocol. The Blood Angels actually did reform the Ninth Legion in the Devastation of Baal. The Ultramarines don't work like that. They're all independent of one another. And I remember there was a story of a Primaris who was assigned to, I forget the chapter now, but he'd be part of the Ultramarines Grey Shields. And he's like, no, I'm an Ultramarine. No, I'm an Ultramarine. No, I'm not you. I'm not taking your psycho-indoctrination.
I was going to the Nova Marines, wasn't it?
Is it the Nova Marines? I think
it was right. The Nova Marines, and that was in the book Dark Imperium.
No, it was in Plague War.
Oh, yeah, Plague War, the sequel.
Yeah.
Do you know how that stupid war ended? It's mentioned in a Greyfax little FAQ thingy. She shot 7 Death Strike missiles at them, and they died.
I mean, that's one way to end a conflict, just shoot 7 fucking missiles at them.
Yeah, but she realized that 7 was the sacred number to Nurgle because reasons. I mean, she is an Inquisitor, so...
Like, shooting 7 missiles. I'm a genius! It's the sacred number of Nurgle. Oh no!
Well, no, that's why it worked on them.
Oh, actually, since we just mentioned Nurgle, I just realized we completely forgot to talk about Darktide.
Oh yeah, Darktide is the thing. It's amazing. Go play it once it comes out.
Oh yeah, 40k Vermintide, basically. That's
It
literally
looks
what
that
it
way.
is.
It definitely looks that way.
Yeah.
It's by the same team.
It is the same team. So hopefully that's good. It looks really cool. The trailer was excellent. Just wanted to mention it. Just so the comments don't yell at us that we forgot it. We did, but now we've remembered. So there you go. We talked about Dark Tide. Carry on.
But will it be better than Deathwing? Probably.
Yes. Considering that my computer has a problem running Deathwing and I have a GTX 2080. Anyway, carry on.
I was going to say, considering the fact that I tried to load a save game and I died before the saved game even loads.
Yes, I remember that video.
They still haven't fixed that, by the way. As far as I'm aware.
Ouch.
Anyway. Right. In most Blood Angels books where they mention their home fortress Arx Angelicum, it's shown to have some massive stuff underground in their librarias. There's an unkillable alien prisoner, some lady trapped next to a small star, and lots of ghost librarians. Is there any explanation for these things?
Not that I'm aware.
Really cool. Actually, I can explain this a little bit. All of those are biblical references.
I mean, fair. That would make sense. But I think
it's like whenever somebody asks what the Watchers in the Dark are, it's just like, oh, those are the angels that guard over the fallen angels in Christianic mythology.
I think the question is there an in-canon explanation for how they got there?
No, it just sounds cool.
Yeah, because the Octo Calvary, as I think the name of the unkillable alien that Mephiston goes to for advice, is there in Devastation of Baal. I haven't read the first Mephiston novel, which is, I've actually forgotten its name. So it might be mentioned in there where he got it, but he sort of is just like, yeah, we go back a ways, me and this Octo Calvary, we chat on occasion. It's not quite that simple, but yeah, there's no explanation as to how they got there. But ghosts in the Angelicum, like, fine. Spirits and contacting the dead. It's the Blood Angels. What were you expecting?
Lots of blood.
Well, yes, then go look at Mephiston going super vampire and shedding his own skin to go chase down a demon on bloody Sortiarius.
Fair point.
I mean, their literal Primarch is St. Michael, so...
Was
Come on.
St. Michael. He's dead.
It still is. He's not dead. He's about as dead as, like... Actually, yeah, he's pretty dead, but he comes back every now and then to give Dante some advice, a pep talk here and there.
Yeah, that happened. Probably.
You could say it's just delusions of an elderly mind. He's just becoming demented.
Yeah,
I'm just imagining... I'm just imagining how the actual conversation is depicted is not exactly what happened. He just, like, sees Mephiston, like, on the ground with, like, a scuffed knee. Not Mephiston, Dante on the ground with a scuffed knee. He's like, hey, champ, did you fall over? Come on, get up.
See, I always imagine...
bad.
After reading Devastation and Bar, I always imagined it... I can never see Dante without seeing, Stan's grandpa from South Park. Because he kept wanting to die. It's like, you're gonna kill me, Billy! Kind of thing. Because he keeps saying, let me die now.
But as much as, yes, we can make that sort of reference, that last 5 or 6 chapters where Dante leads the charge out of the Arx Angelicum and he's slipping in and out of the Black Rage, it is just some of the... I know we've dunked on Guy Haley, but my God, he writes that scene well. My God.
Yeah. Well, one of the funnier things about the Dark Angels is the rage isn't... It's always meant to be there. It was always meant to be there. They are meant to overcome it to be better.
I know the thirst is there, but the rage is tied to saying when he's...
Yeah, the thirst, I meant.
Yeah, the thirst always being there is genetic, definitely.
I mean, it's just like the fan base. The thirst is real.
Ew.
Sigh.
Right. With the premiere of the Space Marine Codex trailer, will the Dark Angels, Blood Angels, and Space Wars and Death Watch get Codex supplements or stick with full Codex releases?
I would not be surprised to see them go down the supplement route, particularly if there's because I think the Space Wolves will be difficult because they've got very few actually crossover units, particularly in their first form, like Blood Claws, Grey Hunters, Wolf Scouts, Wolf Guard. These are all different to Tactical Marines, Scouts, Terminators, Assault Marines, and the like. So it might be difficult to supplementize Space Wolves, but Blood Angels, because they've only got a couple of unique units, they're named characters plus Sanguinary Guard, Death Company, and Associates, and the Baal Predator, and the Librarian Dreadnought.
Wait, I can answer this really, really quickly. Does GW like money? Answer, yes. Of course there's going to be supplements.
But will there be supplements or full codexes?
They're going to be supplements because the full codex is the Space Marine Codex. And it's all just their unique units with their unique characters.
It's a lot of unique units, particularly for Space Wars and Death Watch.
Yep.
Okay, question for Tac. What is the nearest thing physics will allow us to build that resembles a 40k power field?
Probably something like sort of a plasma electric field. So I thought about this before of creating. So obviously, if you can build the material thin enough, you then just need to create a way to break the atomic bonds of a structure apart. So let's say it's in an atomic lattice, like diamond, or a metallic atomic lattice, an ionic lattice, like that. You need to be able to break those bonds. They're not literal bonds. They're not like made out of bits of like stuff. They're generally considered to be part of the strong force, which is a nuclear force, and the electromagnetic force. You've got Van der Waals force in there as well. So essentially, you need to provide enough energy to break those bonds. And one of the ways you might want to do that is, for example, through the generation of a electric field, transferring a potential and thus supplying energy to those bonds to try and break them open. That's one option. The other is through application of heat. So you could superheat a weapon so that when it cuts into something, it either melts the substance or gets all of the particles in it so excited that they break itself apart, and actually that's just melting. So I'm guessing it will be something either electric or temperature based, especially when a power field, you need to surround your weapon. So it would be a electric sheath or a plasma burn sheath type thing, where that generates a really high power field that can then blast atomic bonds apart and doesn't allow you to cut through anything. That's my theory. That's the best I've got. And that's a theory I had 5 years ago. I made a video on like science of 40k, like when I was in first year uni. And my theory for power fields was electric fields at the time, and I haven't come up with anything better.
And a follow-up question. The generators on the Space Marine's backpack, are they large enough for any known fuel sources to actually produce the amount of power needed to power a Space Marine's power armor? I've also heard that they are nuclear powered, and if so, we take it that there is enough fuel to power a Space Marine's power armor. How large would the shielding need to be on the backpack to prevent the person inside from getting radiation poisoning?
I can actually answer the nuclear part.
I have a rough idea, but in terms of the power cell...
Sorry, Alexa, do you want to answer the nuclear part? Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
There's very few iterations of power armor that actually has nuclear power in it. In fact, it's a downgrade you can take in the Black Crusade books for the role-playing, but all power armor is powered by plasma coils. The Sister of Battle power armor is unique as it has the ability to constantly keep charged because magic.
Okay, so plasma-based battery. If you've got plasma, typically inside plasma, if you superheat it enough, you get nuclear fusion going on. And a plasma coil, I've never heard of such a thing because...
Yeah, it's 40k. They're making things up.
Yeah, because a coil made of plasma isn't a coil anymore because plasmas are not particularly solid. A coil containing plasma could be interesting, but what are you getting out of that? You're getting a high charge, a high temperature, so you might be trying to drive a reactor that way. But realistically, the most likely reactor we can build is a microfusion or a microfission reactor, as you already mentioned that they have in some of the older marks of power armor, because I can't do space magic. So
yeah. I mean, what? You're telling me that you can't just wrap plasma up into a circle and create an infinite cell?
I mean, that's what they're trying to do with the fusion reactor in France.
That's what they're talking about in 40k. They literally have some.
Essentially, yeah. If you're putting plasma inside a very in a substance inside a cage and doing stuff in it, inside that plasma, typically you're trying to generate nuclear fusion, and we are trying to do that at the moment with the ITER reactor in France, which is essentially what we call a tokamak, which is a sort of a ring of plasma encased by magnetic fields to stop it touching any of the walls. And in that area, the reactor goes off, and the fusion reactions happen. And in doing so, that means that if we can make it so that they generate more energy than it takes to maintain the magnetic field, then we are able to say that that reactor is sustainable. Then you have to create a micro-fusion reactor like they do in the Fallout universe, where they take that reactor that is like miles underground and massive and condense it down to a small backpack on your back. And
I mean, Tony Stark built it in a cave. How hard can it be?
Comic logic.
Oh God, yes. How the hell did he do that? It was just there.
On a genuine level, like, fusion reactors are in development right now. And the only difference between that and what we're implying with these plasma coils is a sense of scale, because microfusion is space magic as far as we're aware. Like, actual fusion is really, really hard, and getting a bit of fusion going out of a tiny ball of plasma, you're going to run out of fuel really, really quickly, because, well, you are and you aren't, because it's like a miniature sun. So it's difficult. Let's just say it's difficult and leave it at that.
Well, you want to know something else cool from the Dark Heresy rulebooks? Because they literally tell you every bit of lore forever about unique war gear and everything. The average suit of power armor meant for a human only lasts 5 hours. If you get heavy power armor, which we can now see on Inquisitor Draxus, hers can last up to 10 hours.
Okay.
Unless they have this...
It's actually trying to make sense that when you burn up your hydrogen into helium, then you're into trouble. And burning up the helium is just not... Fusing helium isn't even big neither. So fair enough.
Yeah. Space Marine power armor can actually run out of juice unless they have a sustained coil inside their power supply, but then they're losing one of the systems inside the power armor itself.
Right.
And each chapter has different equipment per their suits of power armor. So just kind of an interesting little side note.
Indeed.
Okay. Given the popularity of the Death Corps of Krieg, shouldn't they have at least one Black Library book? They do. It's called Dead Men Walking.
Indeed.
Also, the Death Corps of Krieg are just French army officers. Fight me.
Also, they're not as cool as the Armageddon Steel Legion.
They'll never be as cool as the Armageddon Steel Legion.
Okay, are blanks and old / whatever resistant or immune to chaotic corruption? We had a demonically possessed blank in Nemesis.
Yeah, there was that assassin, wasn't there?
Yeah, Spear.
Spear, that's it. Other than that, how does a demon actually possess a blank, though? Because they can't see them.
They possess the armor that they're wearing. Talk to them.
But it's a sin skin. Like, there's nothing there to possess.
It's sin skin. There's something there to possess. Keep in mind, Nurgle demons are bound to reality by a germ.
This was a Cornate demon.
A Cornate demon? Yeah, just a simple cut is all it needs for a Cornate demon.
That's true with Arthas Moloch, where the only way to stop the invasion of Arthas Moloch was to burn the blood and dry it up on the altar, and then the demons started disappearing. So yeah, that works.
Yep, demonic possession is one of my favorite things in all of 40k.
It's horrible, but fair enough.
Yeah, but it always boils down to 40k's battle with demons always boils down to, regardless of your weapons, it's your will versus the demon's will.
And you will always lose, unless your name is Castellan Crow.
No, you can win. In fact, there's been multiple people who have beaten demons. Cadians beat demons. Normal humans can stand up to demons. If you have faith, you can best demons. If you know complex equations, you can beat demons. By the way, that is actually one of their weaknesses.
Damn you, algebra!
Yo, even demons don't like algebra.
There you go, kids. That's a reason to learn your calculus at school. You'll be able to stop yourself from being demonically possessed if you could just do the quadratic equation. There you go.
Then it turns out Zinch's pro-algebra, just as planned.
What else is it? You can actually stop a demonic possession by being too stupid or ignorant of demons.
Yeah, that works with orcs.
Yeah, that checks out.
I just reminds me of that law in regards to orc weird boys that get possessed by demons, and the orcs are just so confident in themselves that the demon just gets trapped in them, and it's like, oh, there's a demon in my head now. Okay, picks nose, flicks it. Right, let's get some lunch.
Yep. Or they use the demon as a battery.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then you have Malice Darkblade over in Warhammer Fantasy, who is super edgelord because he just so happens to be possessed and shares control of his body with it. Oh, Malice Darkblade is a massive edgelord.
Oh god, just remember that one issue of the comic where he ends up killing his own dad, and the demon's like, God, you scare even me sometimes, and I'm a demon! It's like, well, good. I'm just like, oh, Jesus Christ, that was cringe.
Yeah, his presentation in Total War Warhammer 2, he is such an edgelord. But anyway, that's...
I mean, if he was any more edge, he'd be fucking flat.
I don't know why I find that funny. That's very good. Carry on.
Does the ironclad seismic hammer not count as a hammer because it doesn't look like a hammer?
Yeah, it's a hammer. Does it bang things? Then yes,
I think this was going back to the discussion in regards to chain hammers.
Yes, it does. It feeds back to our discussion of chain hammers.
Yeah, Only War has some weird-ass... That's an Imperial Guardsman weapon.
And an orc weapon.
And an orc weapon, and Chaos Space Marines. Can you imagine you just see, the entire platoon of guardsmen, set up. They have their las guns, and then you have Jerry over here with a freaking chain hammer, sup!
Oh, that's bring the hammer down. Or you hit someone and goes, stop, hammer time.
We do have I think I have somebody working on the art of how a chain hammer would work.
We actually saw, last time, we actually had an image of an actual model that someone converted of a chain hammer, which actually looked pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get a picture
of it. It's again, it boils down to, it's 40k, does it sound cool? Yes, of course it exists. Does a chain scythe exist in 40k? Hell yeah. Does it make any sense? No, scythes are terrible weapons. Is it cool? Absolutely.
Indeed.
Right. I recently bought Farsight Crisis of Faith and will eventually get Emperor of Lies when it's out on paperback. Are there any other books that you, your guests, and the commentators feel have a good portrayal of the Tau, particularly anything of their civilian life?
Civilian life? No, not a chance. Because bear in mind that most books written about the Tau are written by authors who are writing about the Imperium fighting the Tau, and thus their job is to bury the Tau as far as they can, aside from making them look just good enough to be worth fighting. But,
unless you're Phil Kelly.
Unless you're Phil Kelly, he's doing his job.
I would highly suggest the Caiaphas Cain novel that talks about the Tau taking over a planet.
Is that the one where they fight the Furies team up?
The Gene Stealers, yes.
Yeah, that's the greatest book, I think.
Then you have Kion, which is a short audio drama that's pretty good. The Tau 4th edition Codex goes into great detail on their civilization and how they fight, unfortunately, but it does show you a good tidbit of what their actual towns and things are like. I know I have a few others that are from the Tau perspective because I love reading from the Tau.
Yeah, so there's a collection of shorts called Tao Empire, and that's got, for example, a short Farsight story on Arkanasha in it. There's also a short that seems to have mostly been forgotten and panned that was Shadow Sun Last of Kiryu's Line. Or Kiryu's Line.
I didn't mind that one. I thought that was okay.
I heard some people just sort of pan it. I was looking for the artwork for it, and I found it on a review that kind of panned it. But it does seem a bit odd that Shadow Sun is getting outflanked by frickin' guardsmen and has to work with guardsmen to escape a planet. when she's the supreme commander of the entire third sphere of expansion. It's a bit odd, but it doesn't.
I mean, in fairness, it's because she's a mountainous territory, mountain forest territory, and it was a regiment that specializes in mountain forest warfare. So I think it's like their home turf. I think they kind of know, how to use the terrain to their advantage to outflank someone.
I raise you Mount Kanji, but yes, I take your point.
Plus, there was also a bear with antlers.
Yeah, but that book is best known for Shadow Sun sassing the Emperor, which was a great line. But there's that, if you want a bit of Tao-centric literature. One of the first Tao books I ever read before I played...
And her unborn child, don't forget.
Oh, God, yeah. One of the first Tao books I ever read was Firecast by an author called Peter Fehervari, or Fehervari. I say Fehervari because it's just faster. Now, that's an Imperial Guard novel where they fight Tao. But I still remember it being good enough that I wrote a book. I basically just used it as the basis for a short story once for my English language GCSE, and that's on the channel somewhere. There's Deathwatch Shadowbreaker, which has got, whilst mostly being about Deathwatch, there's some good scenes with the Tau Commander, the Ephrael, and the Rogue Inquisitors that they're working with.
There's also the Chasso anthology.
Yep, that's not the same as the Tao Empire short.
That's a different one. That's a different one.
It's
all Tao Empire stories, but it's a different one from the Tao Empire anthology.
Yes. So there are several out there, but in terms of civilian life, I couldn't point you to a particular short or a particular story. I've done my best to piece together what I could find in my video on the casts, but that's about the best that I could do, and I can't recommend an individual book aside from, the Farsight books, because they're really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Question for Tao, and so I'm just laughing because this question is actually about. Is Anshi allowed within the Farsight enclaves, or is just begrudgingly respected by the high-up commanders within the enclaves like the Eight? Is Anshi even part of the whole mind control shtick that the Ethereals have got going on, or does he just disapprove of it? In general, just how cohesive is the Ethereal cast that they're infighting, or do they all agree on how the Tempire should run? When regards to Anshi, it doesn't really matter if he's allowed in the enclaves because he's stuck in Gamora.
Correct, but... to say that a bit at a time, Amshi is welcome in the Enclaves. By how many, we don't know, but Farsight at the very least respects him because he was Violan, and so is Amshi. So, yes, he is welcome in the Enclaves. How many people know about it? We don't know. Do the Ethereals infight? No one has a clue, because no one talks about the Ethereals, because the Ethereals are all dicks. And,
apart from Amshi.
But there is, in Deathwatch Shadowbreaker, the Ethereal there is sort of, it might be... because it's through the lens of the Firecast Commander, there is ambition for the Ethereal to rise higher in the ranks, or maybe for the Fire Commander to rise higher at the rank, and the Ethereal should be rewarded by getting more territory as a result. So we don't know about how cohesive the Ethereals are. We don't know because the only person who ever talks to the Ethereals is called Anva, and Anva is a waste of oxygen. Good job he's not wasting any oxygen because he's dead.
Yeah.
So we don't know on cohesion.
Do you think Lilith Hesperax could permanently kill Lucius if she defeats him and instead of feeling pride feels disappointment? Like it's so easy she's dejected?
In all fairness, Lucius the Eternal isn't the favored champion of Slaanesh anymore. Like, Lucius's book goes into great detail about how he's dying.
So who is the favored champion of Slaanesh?
Fabius Vile. Whether Fabius admits it or not.
I just love how Fabius Vile literally looked upon the face of Slaanesh and just went, nah, he's not real, fuck him.
Despite the fact that looking upon Slaanesh's face is supposed to entrap you and ensnare you within their dominion for all eternity.
It's because Fabius Vile is such a staunch atheist.
Yeah, my atheism is so strong that I reject your godliness.
Pretty much.
In all fairness, I have actually had this theological debate with a lot of people. Are the Chaos gods actually gods? The short answer is they are not gods. They're just a collection of thoughts.
Correct. They have godlike powers.
Literally, you can beat them by shouting "Begone, thought."
Well, no.
We've gone back into Star Trek with the Breen again, haven't we?
You need an entire galaxy to do that because the Chaos Gods are fueled by emotion. Technically, banishing them is, well, as far as I personally believe it to be, the Chaos Gods are immortal. I don't think that unless you wiped out them, well, they're immortal so long as the galaxy is alive. And that's why Chaos can never win. Totally. Because they have to enslave the galaxy so that emotion fuels the gods rather than kill the galaxy because then the gods will become very diminished.
Here's a question that I raised on my Discord that caused instant fighting. Like, instantaneous fighting amongst my fan base. Can the Necrons kill the Chaos Gods?
Without a war presence?
They have killed gods before.
No, they broke them. And they weren't technically gods. They were just like radiation-eating star entities. They're not even gods anyway.
In fairness, they did kill the Flayer.
Yes, but also the Catan technically weren't gods. They were just stellar entities given form and thus having powers.
We also just stated that the Chaos Gods aren't gods either.
Exactly. So, but the reason that the Necrons cannot kill the Chaos Gods directly because they have no war presence to do so. They have no way of actually doing it. But their actions in the Materium, nullifying the war and harvesting the population, would theoretically weaken the Chaos Gods enough that they were not an issue anymore. However, bear in mind, the Necrons want biotransference. They want their bodies back. They want their emotions back. Therefore, they would be accidentally fueling the Chaos Gods again were they to retake physical, real, organic
form. Now, here's where I raise you the pylons, which the original intent of the pylons around the galaxy was to keep any and all warp presence away. Yeah, if they activated all of those pylons, let's just hypothetical, they activated every single one of them and closed the rift to chaos. Chaos could not be summoned and can't get the souls.
So now you're
the gods to death.
Counterpoint, though, the Chaos Gods transcend time and space. This is why you had the Eldari and the pre-Necron Necrontyr fighting demons of Slaanesh before Slaanesh was even created, before the War in Heaven.
Yes,
so they could theoretically, so they could theoretically, the Chaos Gods could theoretically just feed off the souls from the past, even if they have their access to them in the future.
And if we're being technical, Chaos Gods are made of. So the Chaos Gods are made of emotions and stuff, and those emotions are still there, right, in the warp. Irrespective if you cut the warp off, they're there. Yeah, we agree on
that. Quite possibly. It depends how much they're split.
But my point is, if the Chaos Gods are made of soul power, emotional reflection, yada, 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 then they have a power base already. And if they absorb all their demons back into themselves and power themselves up again, that is an exceptionally long shelf life. And if even a few wars break a few pylons and the warp begins to leak through even an inch, there is just enough that the gods can start siphoning fuel, and therefore they can start communicating, setting up cultists to bring the pylons down and weakening the barrier over and over and over and over again.
But the Necrons can also detect that.
There's also one very important for that to fact.
Go back in time, prevent it from happening, because the Necrons have time technology.
But there's something that neither of us have taken into account so far. The fact that the warp is not just connected to 40k. So the Chaos Gods, so even if the Necrons cut 40k from the Chaos Gods in the warp, the Chaos Gods can just feed off the other universes.
I have read everything that states going back and forth, and it's very vague whether or not AOS and 40k are connected.
Gotrek.
No, it was stated outright in White Dwarf.
Gotrek says it. Outright. In, no, Grombrindal, sorry, not Gotrek.
Yeah. It was June 2018 edition White Dwarf. They flat out state it.
And
okay.
So I agree that you could cut...
Which one is it?
June 2018 White Dwarf. I have the screenshot, one second.
So I think the idea of can you kill the Chaos Gods, I think the answer is no. Can you sever the warp from reality? Theoretically, maybe. Depends on how souls work and whether souls crossing into the warp is a thing that requires a connection or just happens. And if they don't go there, where do they go? So
to the anathema, the God Emperor.
Okay, but that means that we still have gods, and the Emperor may or may not be a chaos god that works the same way.
Well, the Emperor isn't a chaos god. He's the anathema to chaos. He's literally the quite.
You can't have one without the other. But you can't have one without the other.
Yes, but he is an anathema to the chaos gods.
I think it's very unlikely that they could kill them. Cut them off, yes. Kill them, no. That's
Shatter them, maybe. They might just shatter them. We know from what is it? What is his name? Malice was brought into reality and killed.
We don't know if Malice was killed. We know he was brought into real space. We don't actually know if he was killed.
It was a possession job, wasn't it?
No, basically they sacrificed the 11 doomed ones, because 11 being a sacred number of Malice.
Yep.
They sacrificed them, and that basically, after 11 centuries, gave enough power to Malice to actually step into the material realm. And that's literally where the story ends. We don't know what happened to Malice after that. So for all we know,
there's actually a really fun mission in Battlefield Gothic 2 where you kill him.
Battlefield Gothic 2 is not canon.
Battlefield Gothic 2 has a lot of canon assets. Also, there is no canon in 40k stated by multiple authors, including Aaron Densky-Bowden.
Point taken. I've just lost my train of thought.
But anyway, let's let the comments decide this, because I want to see it. I want to read this. Let's move on to the next question.
I did actually learn something. I didn't realize that the Omnissiah's sacred number was 12. I just learned that the other day.
I did not know that. That's actually quite interesting.
So that's why. So the organization of these Skitarii is three. Hang on. Let me get the quote up. Hang on. They are organized into 4 cohorts of 3 maniples in a macroclade because of the fact that I believe the sacred number of the Omnissiah is 12.
Mm-hmm. So, the sacred number. So Slaanesh is 6, right?
Yeah, Slaanesh 6, Nurgle 7,
Nurgle 7, Khorne 8, Tzeentch 9, Malice 11, Omnissiah 12, Khorne Rat 13.
Emperor 10?
It'd probably have to be 10, wouldn't it? Because that's the only one that's left, isn't it? If the unless you count the Emperor as the Omnissiah, which you part that school of 4 or not.
It's the machine god's sacred number, sorry, not the Omnissiah's number.
Right, okay.
It's the machine god's number.
So the machine god's 12, then Emperor being 10, I could see that. It gives 10 to someone, considering, 11 Malice, 13 Horned Rat.
Unless, do any of the Eldar gods have a sacred number?
I don't actually know if they do.
Actually, I can give credence to the Emperor's number being 10.
Go on.
The Iron Halos. Now, on the models, they're not represented correctly, but their lore states that they have a point for every sacred instance of the Emperor himself, and there's 10 points on it.
Oh, that actually makes sense.
Celestine's has 10, Guilliman's has 10. So yeah.
I'm just going to double check that I've actually got that quote right about there being 12, because I know the 4x3, and I swear I read it when I was doing some research on Lexicana, that's why it's 4 and 3, but I can't find the exact reference somewhere. Yes, here we go. Each macroclade is comprised of 4 cohorts, each consisting of 3 maniples, resulting in 12 maniples, a number sacred to the Adeptus Mechanicus. And that's in the strategic disposition of the Forged World, taken from the 7th edition Skitarii Codex. It doesn't outright state that the Omnissiah's number is 12, but the Mechanicus see 12 as sacred, so I would only assume so.
I apologize for that coughing, by the way.
It's fine.
No. How dare you?
How dare you?
You got me there.
Aha. Right.
Oh. Nope, never mind. Continue.
Okay, carry on.
No, I had a dumb idea. It was dumb, and I realized it was dumb immediately. Let's continue.
Right. Since 9th edition takes place timeline-wise after 7th and before 8th, does it? Aside from book blow, is it really worth for GW to make new codices for 9th ed? And if they do you think they'll leave lore, to remove lore, or add to it?
Well,
9th edition takes place during the Indominus Crusade, which is only mentioned to last 250 years in one source.
But 8th edition and Dark Imperium and Plague War take place at the end of that war.
Yeah, so they're definitely
Right,
continuing into the future.
So Psychic Awakening is confirmed as happening in the past relative to where we were in 8th edition. It was filling in blanks.
Right, okay.
I can actually explain the Psychic Awakenings really quickly. The Psychic Awakenings, each of them, and they all do this, take place before, during, and then they talk about after. Because in some of them, they even mention the rift across the reality in Faith and Fury, most notably.
Excuse me.
So there you go.
Fair enough. How are we doing for time?
I think we're just pushing toward 2 hours, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Okay, so we've got time for at least one more. Okay. Could the Ultramarines have a unique ability to have chimeric gene seed, which explains why they've been given some of the warriors from the Lost Legions?
No, it's taken directly from Guilliman.
Yeah, I don't really view the Ultramarines as having chimeric gene seed. It's not like with the Minotaurs, where the Minotaurs are outright stated to have chimeric gene seed in their Imperial Armor article.
That's the one thing that's always bugged me is when chapters are like, we don't know who our Primarch is. It's like, okay, follow the return slip to Mars and figure out who it says on the receipt.
Yeah.
Like, you guys have to tell them every single time when you get new gene seed, because you can only clone so many times before the old it just goes bad. But it's like,
I mean, because like in Pandorax, for example, when the Dark Angels have killed a bunch of Chaos Space Marines, they literally have an apothecary going around with his reductor to test the gene seed. He's like, no, he's not fallen. No, he's not fallen. No, he's not fallen. This one's a fallen. Yay.
No, it's like, I view that there's only one chapter smart enough to do blood tests, and that's the Dark Angels. Everybody else is just like, hey, let's throw this random organ into you. Ah, damn it failed. If only there was a way that we could test if this would work prior to doing it.
The only reason I can think of that they wouldn't be able to know is if the Mechanicus doesn't actually test in regards to gene seed source. They just check for purity. It's like, what's the source? Who gives a fuck? Just check if it's pure or not.
Yeah, but even still, once they test it, they'd be like, oh, it's Logar's, or oh, it's Guilliman's.
It's like, if it's a relict, it's like, oh, it's both Guilliman and Johnson's. For some reason, what's the point of splicing the two most stable sources of gene seed together?
Well, simply put, because Oh, also, did you guys ever talk about Urda yet?
A few episodes ago, yeah.
Oh my god, I love her. The Primarch's mother.
Yes, that's what I thought you were talking about. I didn't recognize the name there.
We talked about it back when the book wasn't available at mass retail yet, but that's not really a spoiler anymore considering it's mass market release now, so.
Yeah, and it's awesome. That was like the coolest change to the Horus Heresy so far.
There's one thing I'm really not happy about. It's not in regards to Urda. It's in regards to the fact that they seem to be pushing Malcador more and more to be a perpetual. It's like, please no.
He is a perpetual.
I don't like that idea, though. It's like, what if he's a perpetual? Why is he the only one to turn into an old man, kind of thing? When he's like shown to be a young man in a story in a Unification Wars, and now he's old and frail, gets killed by a chair.
It's alluded to. It's alluded to that.
It's alluded to in Last Council. I know that.
Yeah, he takes on the form of an old man because he's lived so long. It's more of a choice than an actual appearance. Kind of like how the Emperor can shapeshift.
I also find it weird that Malcador is pretty much regarded as being, the second most powerful Psyker after the Emperor. That's not named Magnus, and yet Urda is stated outright to be the most powerful perpetual after the Emperor. So how powerful are her powers when she eventually gets around to demonstrating them?
Yeah, well, it's like, I don't actually view Magnus as having that much power. I know this is going to sound weird, but none of his books outright state like an amazing feat that he has done that has triumphed over, say, Kion carrying a spaceship with his mind for 3 months to hurl it at a planet.
It is very understated, I will admit that. Yeah, definitely. Like, considering that he is supposed to be the most powerful psyker out of all the Primarchs, and like one of the most powerful psykers of the human species, quote unquote, even though he's genetically augmented, super soldier, god, demigod, son of the Emperor, Cyclops, Loki thing. But like, you hear these stories of other alpha class psykers who can literally just like click their fingers and a tire's just exploded.
Like, the other thing is,
we got the Apex twins, for example.
His Primarch novel
was crap.
Was written so poorly. It's just like, I'm going to fall to chaos. Did I tell you I'm going to fall to chaos? I can't wait to fall to chaos. By the way, I wish I could say in this ethereal form forever. If only there was a way. Damn! I guess I'll never find out. And it's just like, oh my god.
I mean, in fairness, in regards to the Primarch novels, like it's rare to get one that is written well, to be honest.
Graham McNeil's Fulgrim.
That was Josh Reynolds who did Fulgrim.
No, Fulgrim, the novel, is McNeil.
Oh, sorry,
Fulgrim, the Palatine Phoenix
my
is
bad,
Reynolds.
my bad. Too many novels called Fulgrim. Too many.
There is. It's really annoying. Because when I talk about Fulgrim, people are like, that's not the book I read. I'm like,
That's why I always say
the other Fulgrim.
I always say Fulgrim or the Fulgrim Primarch novel. I always make it exactly clear which one I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I try to make it clear because it's the good one.
Yeah, but if people haven't read them, they won't know that, unfortunately. It gives people...
Yeah. You're right.
Right,
anyway, I just think Florida is a cool character.
Fair. Are there any other particularly questions grabbing you, Rem, or should we wrap up for the week?
I think we can wrap it up for the week, yeah.
Right, well, in that case, roughly, that brings us to the end of episode 102 of Adeptus Podcastus. If your question didn't get answered here, or you come up with one from watching the episode, please do leave it in the comments below with the word question. I forgot to do that promo for about 10 weeks. I'm going to remember to do it now. Thank you very much to Alexis for joining us for today. I appreciate it. Obviously, you would have been on 100, but that didn't work out, so thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always good to get the band back together because, well, when we're not trying to bite each other's heads off every week, it's actually a very, very good vibe. We do bounce off each other well. I do enjoy the dynamic between the three of us because none of us can shut up. It kind of works.
Well, we all know our certain aspects of the lore. Like, you ask me, I know everything about the Sisters of Battle and like random equipment in 40k. Like,
yeah,
we have like this crazy amount of knowledge of 40k, and we're all just colossal nerds. So
accurate. And to be fair, we have never had. Well, actually, to be fair, Animaticus stopped before you left. But yeah, the amount of Animaticus moments that came out of the original shows. Oh, I did. I actually went back and watched Animaticus the other day, which was a great little throwback. But anyway. So that has been episode 102 of Adeptus Podcast, and we do hope you have enjoyed it. We have a guest confirmed for next week. I won't spoil who it is here, but I hope you do enjoy it. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. This has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
NornQueenAlexis. See you guys later.
We'll see you all next time. Bye for now.